public hearing number 1 to order, please, of the City of Washington, August 8th, 2022 at 6:30 p.m. The first public hearing we have is the proposed ordinance number 12-2022 for voluntary annexation of the territory to the corporate boundaries of the City of Washington, Indiana. Is anybody?
This is a solar park.
Yes.
Yes. This is on the solar park out there. Yes, sir. State your name, please.
Chris Sanders, I'm with INPA.
Okay.
I have a small presentation if that would please the council.
Okay. Okay.
Everybody, I apologize about that.
Okay, let's. Thank you.
So again, my name is Chris Sanders. I'm with INPA. A real quick background, INPA, we're the not-for-profit power provider for the municipality, elected municipality here in Washington, Indiana. We serve 61 municipal members, 60 of which are in Indiana. One is in Ohio. Washington became a member of INPA in 1982. So this is for our Washington 2 solar park. We're up to 162 megawatts now across the state, across 41 different parks, with another 34 megawatts under construction. So the current park that we have down by the Purdue Farms facility, that's a 4 megawatt, we would call that a fixed axis site. So those modules don't move, they're just pointing south all the time. The park that we're building now, that is here on slide 3, that's going to be up on the northwest side of town. It's going to have over 28,000 modules, 9.9 megawatts. This will be our largest single park that we've built in the state. We have recently completed our civil work. We're in the process of putting the fence up now. If you've driven by it, you'll probably see that we've taken about 15 feet of the hilltop off to level it out and get better generation out of the solar. So once the fence is up, equipment deliveries will start, and then construction will really start in earnest. We estimate this to be about a $19 million investment. And all the energy that the park produces, just like the existing park, it's consumed within Washington. It does not go out onto the grid. So that's what's unique about all the generation that we build. It's built on our members' distribution systems and is consumed in our members' own communities. On slide 5, you can see the relative location of where the facility will be. So for those of you that don't have handouts, so here's the center of town. There's where the new facility will be. There's where our existing park is over by Purdue Farms.
Yeah, 150 north and 300 west.
Old Vincent Road.
Yes, sir. This next slide is a kind of a layout. The colors, just you know how we group different equipment, and there won't actually be any different color modules there once it's built. But this shows the rough layout of the property boundaries as well as the fence line and how the equipment will be laid out within the site. And so here today to request a voluntary annexation. You mentioned it's on West 150 North. It is not contiguous with the rest of the city, but because of Indiana Code 36434, there is a provision now for property that is not contiguous, that has solar built on it, to be annexed into communities, with a provision that if we're ever to cease being solar, that it would revert back to the previous entity. And we were here before the BZA in November, and we received conditional use and special exemptions November 23rd, before we closed on the park. Some more detail just about how the non-contiguous annexation works. I'm sure your attorneys has briefed you on that, is familiar with those. So some of the benefits to the community as it relates to potential tax revenue by annexation. So, assuming a traditional 10-year abatement, we project that the tax revenues would be in the neighborhood of $3.8 billion over a 45-year life of the asset. So, over the 10-year abatement period, we would pay approximately $440,000, and then after the abatement period, it'll be about $88,000 every year coming into the community. A little bit just about the parks here in Washington. The Washington 1 was built 2016. Like I mentioned, it's 4 megawatts. It's big enough to power about 450 homes, but because it's fixed and doesn't tilt, it has lower generation than the newer park will have. So the newer park can do about 1,800 homes. There's just a little bit more of a close-up of the Washington 1 site. They're kind of southwest of Purdue Farms. And then this is just where we talk about all the things that, we've heard from us before on the other side about, the opportunities for education, if schools wants to get involved and do tours. It continues to reinvest in our member communities, and again, all the energy is generated is consumed within, your own municipal utility. So, with that, I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Have you got any questions for Chris?
That's a pretty good size, that's, we have about 5,000 meters, homes in the city. Randy, do you remember?
About 5,000 meters is,
Yeah, I think it's 7 something overall.
But that
counting
includes Montgomery.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so 1,800 is a pretty good chunk of that.
Yeah, and that's, like I say, this is the biggest they can go, stay under 10, right, Chris?
Yes, without a
Yeah.
certificate of public need, yes,
Yeah, right.
we stay under 10 megawatts.
Yes, yes.
And then we also size the parks to not push back out into transmission figure interconnect.
Right.
Would you like my copy or?
But if anybody's been out by there, it's a lot of land.
Yeah,
There's a lot of ground there.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions for Chris? Anybody in the audience got any questions on this, public hearing? On the solar park?
Appreciate you coming down and talking to us.
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, hearing no other questions or anything from the audience, I'm gonna close this public hearing at 6:39. Okay, and then we're gonna open up public hearing number 2 of the City of Washington, August 8th, 2022 at 6:39 p.m. Today's agenda, a resolution confirming the designation of the economic revitalization area and approving the deduction from assessed value of real property improvements. Okay. Anybody here is this,
Yeah, this is for the Kirstein's
Yeah.
development on the east side of town, Harbor Springs. So this is for the proposed tax abatement on the approximately 72 apartment units,
Yes.
right, Ruger?
Yep.
We have Ruger Kirstein's with Kirstein's Development here today. Be happy to answer any questions. I believe Ruger actually does have some renderings of the facility, if you want
Yeah,
to share
these-
those, Ruger.
So these are, it's a little bit of both, because I think tonight there's also a reading on the developer agreement. So-
There is,
yes,
So
yes.
I've got the bird's eye view that I sent, that was the very first time I came in, but I got it on a larger print now, and also some homes, sample homes that would be built within that development. So there's the big bird's eye view. Don't want to block anybody. Can you see over top of that? Okay. The condos, and then another sample of a single-family house. So just a little bit more of a visual representation, because I know this doesn't really do a good job of showing exactly what the homes look like. And I also don't want to paint the picture that these are the exact homes that are going to be built, because it's up to the clients on the exterior, the facade make, the layout of the home. As long as it fits within the lot lines, we can really build whatever they want. But these are just some sample plans that were popular, so using those as an example. But these are, aside from the exterior make, This is the design of the condos. That will not change, but the facade will change. Yeah.
Yeah. And Ruger just sent those out just, you know, this past week and,
Yeah, that one will be a good one to show.
yeah.
I will note, a different layout now. I was not able to fit 2 of these condo buildings down here in this bottom lot. So instead of trying to shrink it in and make it really condensed, the trade-off was, which I think is good for the city's tax revenue, because these are worth more than one house. We traded this home for another one of these buildings, so there'll be 2 condo buildings here and then minus 1 home. I just had this printed before I could make that final adjustment after Dennis finished all the dimensions and utility plans. So that'd be the only adjustment to
Okay.
what's shown here, so.
Anybody have any questions for Ruger on this development or any of the?
Looks like a nice plan.
Yeah, it does. I was really, really like the renderings.
It'll be a nice new addition to the east side of town. I mean, you guys have heard me till I blew in the face about the housing need, right? And how that's a major challenge for us from an economic development standpoint. Obviously, the rendering I just took down was for Cypress Point Apartments. They're actually well underway right now, 143 new market rate apartments. And this will be 72 apartments, 12 single-family homes now, Ruger?
Yep.
Yeah.
12
Well,
homes and
yeah.
8 condos.
And eight condominiums. Priced at condominiums starting at 205,000.
Yep.
Single-family homes at 225,000, and then the apartments, do you have an estimated rent range for those yet?
Between 850 and 900 for a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom apartment.
And this is all market rate
Yeah.
project.
Yeah.
It's all market rate.
Yeah, thank you.
It is. Yeah, and the area in blue, that's a detention. Is it detention or retention?
Yeah, it's a retention pond. So the existing pond, if anybody's familiar with, it was formerly Ray Leininger's land. He's got a small pond there that'll be improved and made a little bit larger to retain all the water on the site. So dress it up and make it more of a water feature versus just a pond. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this is a major step forward from a housing standpoint. The city of Washington is definitely eating away at the need for housing here in Davies County.
Right.
And it's demonstrating a leadership role in moving that forward. You have several resolutions, we apologize, in front of you, resolutions and ordinances tonight in terms of the combination of the public-private partnership. Myself, the mayor, Alan, and others, worked with Ruger and his team on. So yeah, this is the public hearing for the tax abatement for the apartments.
Yes.
And then you have an economic development agreement with you as well to assist with the infrastructure. So we'll talk about that when
Yeah,
we get to those
right,
points.
right.
So.
Anybody in the audience got anything on this public hearing they want to bring up? Any questions? Council got anything else? Okay.
This is just east of Washington. Do you know where the new TrueRx headquarters is? Right at the roundabout, so directly across the street from that. So, yeah.
Okay. All right, hearing nothing else, I'm gonna close this public hearing at 6:44. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ruger. Okay. Just go right into the City of Washington Common Council meeting, August 8, 2022. First thing, let's have a moment of silence for our veterans, please. Okay, thank you. Let's pledge allegiance, please.
Allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, may I have roll call, please?
Councilman Lunsford.
Here.
Councilman Brown.
Here.
Councilman Bress.
Here.
Councilman Sampson, absent. Councilman Emmons.
Here.
Councilman Dahl.
Here.
Councilman Showalter.
Here.
Okay. All right, next thing on the agenda, the approval of the minutes from the July 25th, 2022 regular meeting in front of you tonight. Any questions or concerns about the minutes as have been presented?
I move we approve those.
All right, Councilman Dahl
I'll
makes a
second.
motion to approve the minutes as written. Councilman, was it Gress?
Yeah.
Thank you. Councilman Gress seconds, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Next, we have written presentation of the claims in front of you tonight. Anybody have any questions on the claims that's presented tonight? I didn't see anything. We do have several items for the highway project. Yeah, a lot of those claims are in there for that. We're trying to wrap up that property.
I think our final condemnation hearings are next Monday, I believe.
Well, that's good. That's great.
Yeah. Other than that, I didn't see anything. Any other things? Any questions anybody got?
I'll make a motion.
We accept them and send them to the Board of Works.
Okay, Councilman Gress makes a motion to approve these minutes in the Board of Works. Councilman Emmons seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. All right, anybody comments by members of the public other than what's on the agenda tonight?
I would like to address the council.
Go ahead and name your,
My name is Candace Crawford, about the recent flooding and the stormwater drainage issue.
okay?
May I present?
Yeah, you may.
Dear council, my family and I have been residents of Washington for 3.5 years and love our home here. However, I would like to express my frustration and concern that there is not adequate stormwater drainage around our property. I am aware that there was a council meeting in March of this year regarding improvements concerning the stormwater sewage treatment facility, but I see no indication in the minutes that any of the approved money and work will extend to implementing new drains and gutters where needed throughout the city. The roads of this city should not have standing water, and our backyard should not have a river of runoff with every heavy thunderstorm. I've included photos of our property with standing water from various storms ranging from 2019 to the last flood on July 24, 2022. And I will pass, here's some of these. It's front and back. In 2019, the city installed 3 drainage barrels in our yard in collaboration with Habitat for Humanity, which do help with moving the water off our property quickly, but it does nothing to prevent water from accumulating in massive amounts. It appears that other drains on our road are too small to accommodate the amount of runoff that collects here. Earlier this spring, our smallest child found and picked up a syringe, which stormwater had washed onto our property from another property because of inadequate stormwater drainage. This is unacceptable. Because Washington is seeing more frequent flooding happen and multiple unprecedented rainfall amounts, I feel the stormwater overflow drainage must be overhauled. Flood zones also need to be reevaluated and assistance provided to residents of the city to build up the houses, garages, and streets to prevent houses flooding again and again in problem areas. We've had to evacuate our home twice since moving here 3.5 years ago, as the water just kept rising. As a result, from this last storm, the water covered both the front and back porches. We have gone through 3 sump pumps in 3.5 years, and our air ducts in the crawl space need replaced as they've been filled with flood water on more than one occasion. 3 rows of siding were submerged in flood water this last time, and we need to have it evaluated for structural and mold damage. None of this is currently covered by insurance. In the words of Scott Myers, I can't believe you're not listed in a flood zone if they put 3 flood drains in your yard. I have to ask why the lot our house is on was ever actually approved as a zone for new housing to be built. I met Nancy Price, who lived across the road from us from 1957 to 2017, and she witnessed that lot flooding many times over the years. The flooding she describes is exactly what we've been seeing. Regardless of whether the amounts of rainfall we've been having are unprecedented, the flooding on our lot is not. As an eyewitness, she describes the flooding becoming worse over the years. At the very least, I ask that the City Council look at rerouting water runoff to a drain before it runs as a river across our backyard. This would help greatly decrease the chances of our house flooding. The drain is located on the northeast corner of our property, and the water flows in from the northwest and completely crosses the property where our children play, but often can't because of the flowing water bringing who knows what into the yard before reaching the drain. Because of this, we have previously lifted our shed higher, but it already needs lifted again as the runoff is causing damage to the shed, which has had standing water inside several times. We are researching anything and everything we can do to make this a safe home for our children and us for many years to come. We'd appreciate the stormwater issue being addressed to help us reach our goal and to improve the city of Washington in the process. I also want to introduce to you other families affected by the recent flooding. Katie Van Hoy's family had flooding in their basement. She and her husband have 2 small children. Their brand new HVAC system they installed last year is ruined. They also had damage to their roof, ceiling, and subfloor. Insurance hasn't accepted their claim for any of that. Rebecca Price's family, and I have photos of Rebecca's, if you would like to pass that. Rebecca Price's family had flooding in their basement. She and her husband have 5 children, including a baby less than 1 year old. Their washing machine, dryer, furnace, air conditioner, and hot water heater were ruined in the flood. Insurance won't cover any of this damage, and they have a very large amount of mold now growing. I saw several homes badly flooded on Northwest 6th Street, between Main Street and West Walnut Street. Fan Trees is also a chronic flooding area. 2010, 2019, 2022, I don't know all of the years that these homes have flooded, but this is not new. These are known problem areas, and yet residents are allowed to live there without adequate warning of what they're moving into and without adequate stormwater drainage infrastructure. It's time to change this. Who is upholding the standards for housing and the standards for building homes above the known flood levels? Where is the city when our residents need urgent help after a flooding event such as this? 211 has been activated to gather information, but what if Washington is deemed to have not sustained enough damage to qualify for any help? Then what? Please hold true to Washington's motto of being a city of pride and progress. Progress for all of Washington, not just new housing. All of your residents deserve an upgrade in infrastructure. All deserve to live in homes free of mold and free of the fear of flooding happening year after year with as little as 4 inches of rain. It's not enough to shrug your shoulders and say there's nothing to be done. It's always been this way. That area will always flood. Take action for our city, our whole city. The residents of Washington deserve better. I ask you to prepare for this sort of disaster. Make a plan for checking on your residents and providing immediate assistance. Build the stormwater system bigger and better in order to better handle this flooding issue. I've also included, this was from the DNR website, showing what looks like that we're in a flood zone, and yet we're told repeatedly we're not in a flood zone. Look at the photos of flooding and consider improvements to critical infrastructure. Take action now to ensure progress for the future. Thank you. And I have other photos if you'd like to pass these. These are from, this is from this year, showing we have 28 inches of water standing against our fence. This is damage done to our home, and the floodwaters came all the way up into our air vents. These are pictures from West Fan Tree Street. There were cars totaled. Houses looked like up to 8 levels of siding. And this was our home in 2019 before the flooding peaked. And this one shows where the water comes from that floods our yard. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any
Sorry,
questions?
ma'am, I didn't get your name, please,
Candace Crawford,
and your address?
508 West Heffernan Street.
Anybody have any questions for Candace, any from the council?
No, she made a very clear presentation. And sorry for voting problems.
And we will, I mean, before this flood, we purchased a new piece of equipment, and we will, camera those lines and see, try to do some valuations and look into it. I mean, because we had that ordered, we didn't order before this flooding happened, but it has came in. and it should help us out. Okay, anybody else in the audience have anything that's not on the agenda tonight they want to bring forward to the council tonight?
I want to provide you with some pictures of the damage in our street, if you don't mind.
Go ahead and give us your name, please.
Michael Aviles.
Okay.
So, basement. North basement, traffic water. Smoke there.
May I ask, both of you, while he's passing those pictures out, have you got on the website and put in your assessment? Okay, because that's very important.
That's 503, North Main.
As a city, we had to reach out to them, we wanted them to get involved, and we want to emphasize how important that is for residents to use that for assessment. We don't know what that dollar figure is gonna be, we don't even know if it's gonna be any assistance or not, but that's one thing we had to do, to get the assessment from the state.
My basement and damages.
Okay, anybody else got anything to bring up?
What piece of equipment are you talking about?
We got a mainline camera truck that we bought recently. Before, we got it we just got it. It will give us the ability to, we had the ability to camera these lines, but this main line will give us the ability, we had a portable unit, and this will give us the ability to further
Sir?
camera those lines.
On yours, was it still just stormwater, or was it coming through the regular sewer, or
It was coming in and it was still water.
coming in from both places, where the
Yeah,
sur-
about 4 feet, I think.
Did you get his address?
503.
What was your address, sir?
503 North Meridian Street.
North Meridian?
Yeah.
And then, do we know where Rebecca Price's address to? Candace, did you know that?
It's on the corner
I
of
know where.
Northwest First and Heffron. No, not Heffron.
No,
The next
Heffern
one.
and Northwest Sixth, right?
No.
Oh.
Flora and
Flora.
Northwest.
Oh, okay. There was a Price that lived right across the road from you, that's what,
Nancy
yeah,
Price that she was talking
yeah,
about. Yeah, okay.
yeah. I knew that for you, yeah. I knew them for, okay.
so you're planning on having them in the
We're
camera?
gonna camera those lines for one thing, but, and see, that's just a start,
And maybe talk to Ed and see if there's anything
Yeah,
doable?
yeah, yeah. That's, yeah.
Maybe let him, like, no.
Because, they did put those inlets was there prior to you building that, after you built that, they put them in there in 2019? Okay.
Our house was completed, we moved in January, and those were put in like May or June.
In 2019?
And then it was at the end of June when 4 inches, like completely flooded up to 1 layer of siding, covered the road. It got into our HVAC at that point in the crawl space.
Okay. Okay. Okay, thank you for that. I appreciate both of you for coming. Okay. All right, anything else? Okay.
Jerry, you got a question back here?
Yeah, who does? Jerry?
Yeah, the last condemnation, is that the one on Washington?
I'm sorry?
Oh,
The last condemnation for tear down, is that the one on Washington Avenue?
No, I'm talking about condemnations for the Highway 50.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah,
Take those
yeah.
two.
Has
No.
that ever been reported?
I don't know.
The house on Washington.
We've dealt
It's-
that, we've dealt with that one on Washington. I know, Brent's not here tonight to speak, but on the corner of Washington and maybe 13th?
13th or 14th.
Yeah.
I don't know which.
I'll remind, look into that again, but yes, we have sent notices, I know, out to that house many times, more than once.
And it would be nice if the council would take a ride at night and see that all the damn lights out,
You said lights out?
street lights. I brought it to you guys' attention 3 or 4 times. There's 4 of them on my road.
At first, I don't remember hearing it.
Well, I've not brought it to the council, but I've talked to the person that's over my district,
Okay.
and I've also talked to Dove Campton, and I think I've probably talked to a couple more.
Have you called in, Jerry?
Yes, I have,
Okay.
but they're still not being fixed.
Okay.
I mean, they'll come on in the daylight, you think they work? No, they don't work at night. You have to physically drive, sorry for cussing too, I didn't mean to do that. But you have to physically just drive around and see, I mean.
Okay.
If I forgot something, I wanna know what I forgot, because everything I've done was complain for the citizens of Washington whenever I was sitting in your guys' seats.
Okay, thank you. At first, I've been brought to my attention, so I'll look at
That's fine.
Okay, anything else? Anybody else? Okay, we're gonna move on to our resolutions for the night. The first one's reading of resolution number 13-2022. May I have a motion to read this resolution, please?
Make a motion to read it.
Good, Councilman Gress makes a motion to read it. Councilman Brown seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Tim?
Excuse me. Resolution number 13-2022, resolution of the Common Council of the City of Washington concerning authorization for execution of NDOT agreements. Whereas Indiana Code, Chapter 36-1-3, permits any unit of the state of Indiana to exercise power or to perform any function necessary to the public interest in the context of its governmental or internal affairs, which is not prohibited by the Constitution of the United States or of the state of Indiana, or denied or preempted by any other law, or is not expressly granted by any other law to another governmental entity. Whereas the Common Council of the City of Washington, Indiana is the legislative body and is by law authorized to adopt ordinances and resolutions for the administration of Washington's financial affairs. Whereas the Indiana Department of Transportation has requested specific written authority for the execution of NDOT agreements when all members of the legislative body do not sign. Now therefore be it resolved by the Common Council of the City of Washington, Indiana as follows. 1, authorization. The mayor of the City of Washington is hereby authorized and confirmed to have the authority to execute any NDOT agreements and all other documents related thereto, and all documents related to any NDOT grant programs for and on behalf of and to bind the City of Washington. 2, ratification. The Common Council of the City of Washington, Indiana hereby ratifies all prior agreements and associated documents executed by the mayor of the City of Washington for the City of Washington, Indiana, prior to the effective date of this resolution. And 3, effective date. This resolution is effective immediately and upon its date of adoption, resolved this 8th day of August, 2020, should be 2022, Common Council of the City of Washington, Indiana, and then signature lines for all council members.
Okay, any questions on this resolution? This is mostly, well, this pertains to any NDOT, but this one particularly is the CCMG that's coming due, and this gives me authorization to sign for this and keep this CCMG agreement moving forward.
We've done this in the past, but they wanted another one.
Yeah, we've done this since I've been in, because we've had CCMGs before, but it just allows me or a single person to sign for these agreements. Got anything else on that? Yeah. Okay, any other
Make a
questions?
motion to approve it.
Okay. Councilman Gress, huh?
Do I need to abstain on this one?
Probably.
It probably wouldn't be a bad thing. Yeah, Councilman Gress makes a motion to approve, Councilman Brown seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstained.
Okay, Beth,
Yep.
thank you. Okay. Second, resolution is reading of resolution 14-2022. I have a motion to read this, resolution, please. Councilman Brown makes a motion to approve, to read this resolution. Councilman Shore, seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Tim?
Resolution number 14-2022, resolution confirming the designation of an economic revitalization area and approving the deduction from assessed value of new real property improvements. Whereas the Common Council of the City of Washington, Indiana has been requested by Pearson's Development, Inc. to find pursuant to Indiana Code 6-1.1-12.1-2 that an area is an economic revitalization area, which area will contain the project. And whereas the council has prepared a simplified description of the area or maps and plats that identify the area attached as Exhibit A. And whereas the area is located within the jurisdiction of the city for the purposes set forth in IC 6-1.1-12.1-2. And whereas the applicant intends to construct an apartment development on property located as described in the map attached here to as Exhibit A and incorporated herein by reference, all is described in the statement of benefits submitted by the applicant to the council. And whereas the council has reviewed the statement of benefits, and whereas pursuant to Indiana Code 6-1.1-12.1-2 on July 25, 2022, the council adopted a resolution which designated the area as an economic revitalization area pursuant to the act and approved real property tax deductions under Indiana Code 6-1.1-12.1-3 for redevelopment or rehabilitation in the area for 5 years. And whereas in compliance with IC 6-1.1-12.1-2.5, the council published notice describing the adoption and substance of the declaratory resolution and stating that on August 8, 2022, the council will hold a public hearing at which it will receive and hear all remonstrances and objections from interested persons with respect to the declaratory resolution. And whereas in compliance with IC 6-1.1-12.1-2.5, the council filed with each taxing unit that has authority to levy property taxes in the area a copy of the notice and the statement of benefits. And whereas in compliance with IC 6-1.1-12.1-2.5, on August 8, 2022, the council held the public hearing at which it received, heard, and considered evidence concerning the declaratory resolution and any remonstrances or objections with respect to the declaratory resolution. And whereas pursuant to Indiana Code 6-1.1-12.1-2.5, the council desires to take final action confirming the declaratory resolution. Now therefore be it resolved by the Common Council of the City of Washington, Indiana, that, Section 1, the council hereby finds that 1, the area is within the city, and 2, the area has become undesirable for or impossible of normal development and occupancy because of a lack of development, cessation of growth, deterioration of improvements or character of occupancy, age, obsolescence, substandard buildings, or other factors which have impaired values and prevented a normal development of property and use of property. Section 2, the area is hereby declared to be an economic revitalization area pursuant to IC 6-1.1-12.1. The period for real property tax deductions under IC 6-1.1-12.1-3 for redevelopment or rehabilitation in the area shall be 5 years. Section 3, based on the information in the statement of benefits describing the project, the council makes the following findings. A, that the estimate of the value of the redevelopment or rehabilitation of the real property is reasonable for projects of that nature. B, that the estimate of the number of individuals who will be employed or whose employment will be retained as a result of the proposed redevelopment or rehabilitation of the real property can reasonably be expected to result from the proposed redevelopment or rehabilitation of the real property. C, that the value of the acquisition and construction of improvements as a result of the project creates benefits of the type and quality anticipated by the council within the area and can reasonably be expected to result from the proposed redevelopment or rehabilitation of the real property. D, that the benefits described in the statement of benefits can reasonably be expected to result from the proposed redevelopment or rehabilitation of the real property. E, that the totality of the benefits from the proposed redevelopment or rehabilitation of the real property is sufficient to justify a 5-year real property tax deduction period. Section 4, based on the information in the statement of benefits and the foregoing findings, the council, pursuant to Indiana Code 6-1.1-12.1, hereby approves and allows the applicant real property tax deductions for 5 years as set forth in Section 5 for the redevelopment located in the area. Section 5, with respect to the real property, the percentage of deduction for each of said 5 years shall be as follows. In each 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5th year would be a 100% abatement. Section 6, the council hereby confirms the declaratory resolution and the actions set forth in this resolution are final, except for the limited rights of appeal provided under IC 6-1.1-12.1-2.5. Section 7, each of the mayor and the clerk treasurer is hereby authorized to make all filings necessary or desirable and to take all necessary actions to carry out the purposes and intent of this resolution and the deductions approved thereunder. Section 8, this resolution shall be in full force and effect from and after its adoption. Passed and adopted by the Common Council of the City of Washington, Indiana, this 8th day of August, 2022.
Okay, any questions on this resolution?
Motion to approve it.
Okay, motion for adoption, Councilman Shore makes a motion to approve,
Second.
second by Councilman Lunsford, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, this resolution's adopted.
You need a glass of water or anything?
Hang it in there, hang it in there.
You need something?
I was about to say, feel free to just,
I can
This
get
my
one-
title won't lay the
this
rest of
next
these.
one's worse,
I'd be
so-
happy to answer any
They're
questions.
getting shorter.
Yeah, they do.
Okay.
That last one.
Yeah, that's, okay, the third one, reading of resolution 15-2022. Can I have a motion to, read this resolution?
So moved.
Okay, Councilman, is it Gress, or Dahl, excuse me. Councilman Dahl makes a motion to read this resolution, Councilman Brown seconds, all in favor? Opposed? Jim?
Resolution number 15-2022, resolution of the Common Council of the City of Washington, Indiana, approving a form of economic development agreement between the City of Washington and Kirstein's Development, Inc. Whereas there has been presented to the Common Council of the City of Washington, Indiana for its consideration, an economic development agreement between the city and Kirstein's Development, Inc., or an affiliate thereof, in the form of Exhibit A attached hereto. And whereas pursuant to the economic development agreement, the company would agree to make certain investments in the city. And whereas the Common Council believes that the approval of the economic development agreement is in the best interest of the citizens of the city and necessary for the redevelopment and economic development of the city. Whereas the Common Council desires to approve the economic development agreement substantially in the form of Exhibit A hereto, now therefore be it resolved by the Common Council of the City of Washington, Indiana as follows. Section 1, the Common Council of the City of Washington, Indiana hereby approves the economic development agreement substantially in the form attached hereto, with such changes as the mayor of the city shall approve, such approval to be evidenced by his execution thereof. Section 2, 2 copies of the attached economic development agreement shall be kept on file in the office of the clerk treasurer of the city for public inspection. Section 3, the mayor, the clerk treasurer, or any other officer of the city is hereby authorized and directed to take any action as such officer deems necessary or desirable to effectuate this resolution, and any such actions hereto taken are hereby ratified and approved. Passed and adopted by the Common Council of the City of Washington, Indiana on the 8th day of August, 2022.
Okay. Any questions on this resolution?
So on here, Article 4 doesn't show what you showed earlier, right? The changes from 13 to 12 and two of the, okay,
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, that is correct.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so, with that, basically what this agreement is, in front of you, it's stating what the responsibilities are of both parties, right? So we're entering into a partnership with Kirstein's Development on this, site development, right? So, basically it's outlining what the city of Washington is agreeing to, and that's the tax abatement, that is the, forgivable local income tax loan, the way we have to structure it per our redevelopment council, and per state law, that will help with the infrastructure. We'll put it in the form of a forgivable loan, right? And Ruger and his team stand to benefit from that, right, with assistance on the infrastructure if they meet certain parameters. And those parameters are, given a housing study, where we want the price points to be, starting price points for the homes, for the condos. Agreement, that there's recourse, right? So, to your point, Darren, that's a very good catch. We will want to amend that project description, which specifies, Ruger, and here it mentions, Kirstein's Development agrees to a development consisting of 13 single-family homes, apartment development consisting of approximately 70 units, which is accurate, and a condominium development consisting of 8 units.
Yeah, so that latest change, the only difference would be losing that one home because
Well,
the way
it's
the
13
utilities, yeah, with all these, the way the utilities laid out and keeping that retention pond plenty big.
Right.
That's how it ended up laying out. As of just a couple days ago, we found that out, so.
Yes.
Be
Tim,
sure to note that in the minutes, Ben.
okay, yeah, I was about to ask if that could be amended.
Say again the changes.
Yeah, just one change. Page 2.
4.02.
Yep, 4.02. From 13 single-family homes to 12.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Yeah,
Okay,
sure.
any other questions? If not, can I have a motion for adopt?
So moved.
Councilman Munson makes a motion to adopt this resolution. Can I have a second? Second by Councilman Brown. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Opposed? None? Okay. This resolution's adopted.
That one was quicker, Tim. A lot quicker.
This one's not.
Okay.
Okay, next one, reading of resolution 16-2022. May I have a motion to read this resolution? Councilman Shore makes a motion to read this.
Second.
Second by Councilman Emmons, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 10.
Resolution number 16-2022, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of Washington, Indiana, establishing a revolving fund pursuant to Indiana Code 5-1-14-14, authorizing a loan under such revolving fund in certain related matters. Whereas the Common Council of the City of Washington, Indiana, the legislative and fiscal body of the City of Washington, Indiana, desires to establish a revolving fund pursuant to Indiana Code 5-1-14-14B as amended, to be funded from a portion of the city's distributive share of the local income tax revenues received by the city under Indiana Code 6-3.6-9 as amended, and allocated for economic development purposes under IC 6-3.6-6-9 as amended, for the purpose of making one or more loans to borrowers approved pursuant to the Act. And whereas the Common Council further desires to authorize the making of an initial deposit into said revolving fund to be hereinafter referred to as the City of Washington Economic Development Revolving Fund of an amount of LIT revenues up to $510,000, and whereas the Common Council further desires to authorize the loan of money in the fund to Kirstein's Development, Inc., or an affiliate thereof in an amount not to exceed $510,000. And whereas the loan of money in the fund to the borrower shall be evidenced by one or more loan agreements between the city and the borrower in a form approved by the mayor, with the repayment obligation of the borrower under each such loan agreement to be evidenced by one or more promissory notes of the borrower to the city in a combined principal amount equal to the combined principal amount loaned to the borrower. Now therefore be it resolved by the Common Council of the City of Washington, Indiana, that one, the Common Council hereby establishes the fund pursuant to Indiana Code 5-1-14-14B, which fund is hereby authorized to be funded from LIT revenues and amounts to be approved by the Common Council from time to time in accordance with law. Two, the fund shall initially be authorized to be funded with LIT revenues in an amount up to $510,000, with the final amount to be finally determined by the mayor pursuant to this section 2. The clerk treasurer of the city is hereby directed to cause to be transferred from the city's local income tax fund to the fund upon receipt of a written request executed by the mayor of the city, the amount of money designated in such request, provided, however, that the combined amount of such transfers shall not exceed $510,000, and the timing of any such transfers shall be subject to the provisions of paragraph 7 below. 3, notwithstanding anything herein to the contrary, monies may not be loaned from the fund unless the use of such LIT revenues has been included in the capital improvement plan of the city established pursuant to IC 6-3.6-6-9.5, pursuant to Indiana Code 6-3.6-9, and are otherwise legally available for such purposes. The city's LIT plan is hereby amended to include the city's loan to the borrower described herein. 4, the Common Council hereby finds that the loan will be used by the borrower for the acquisition, construction, renovation, installation, and equipping of an apartment project to be used by the borrower for the purpose of promoting significant opportunities for the gainful employment of the residents of the city, for the attraction of major new business enterprises to the city, and for the retention or expansion of significant business enterprises in the city. 5, the Common Council hereby authorizes the loan in an amount not to exceed $510,000 to the borrower, subject to the provisions of paragraph 7 below. 6, the mayor on behalf of the city may, subject to the provisions of paragraph 7 below, make one or more loans to the borrower in a combined amount not to exceed $510,000 for purposes set forth in one or more loan agreements. Such loan or loans shall be evidenced by one or more loan agreements between the city and the borrower in such form as the mayor of the city shall approve, such approval to be conclusively evidenced by the execution of a loan agreement by the mayor of the city. The mayor of the city is hereby authorized to execute, and the clerk treasurer of the city is authorized to attest each loan agreement, subject to the terms and conditions of this resolution. 7, the loan agreement shall include the following terms. The city shall provide to the company a forgivable loan in the aggregate amount of $510,000 from the city's LIT revenues. The company will be required to provide a promissory note to the city in the amount of the distributions. Distributions of LIT loan proceeds shall be made in 3 separate distributions. The distribution shall be made in accordance with the following schedule, but with no more than one distribution in any one calendar year, and subject to the company's meeting the city's minimum standards based on a city inspection. A, installment 1, upon completion of grading and utility installation. B, installation 2, upon completion of curb and base of all new streets. C, installation 3, upon completion to the reasonable satisfaction of the city of surface coat and project dressing. The company agrees that forgiveness of the promissory note will be conditioned on the company's maintaining a base price point of $205,000 for the condominiums and $225,000 for the single-family homes. Rents for the apartment development should be consistent with similar developments in the community and surrounding region. 8, the obligation of the borrower to repay the loan or loans shall be evidenced by one or more promissory notes from the borrower to the city in such form as the mayor shall approve, such approval to be conclusively evidenced by the execution of an acknowledgement of receipt of a promissory note by the mayor. The promissory note or notes shall be in a combined principal amount equal to the combined principal amount borrowed by the borrower under the loan agreement or loan agreements, and shall bear interest at an interest rate of 0% and shall have a repayment date as set forth in said note. 9, the mayor and clerk treasurer of the city are, and each of them is, hereby authorized and directed to take all such actions and to execute all such instruments, including, without limitation, each loan agreement, as are desirable to carry out the transactions contemplated by this resolution, in such forms as the mayor and the clerk treasurer of the city executing the same shall deem proper, to be conclusively evidenced by the execution thereof. 10, this resolution shall be in full force and effect from and after its adoption by the common council, passed and adopted by the common council of the city of Washington, Indiana, on the 8th day of August, 2022.
Any questions on this resolution?
So, just as a point of clarification here, so it does seem kind of confusing that it's being called a revolving loan fund. The mayor, myself, and Tim have talked considerably over the past few days. This is at the recommendation of Barnes and Thornburg, our redevelopment council. So there's specific language in state statute referring to this as a permissible use of your economic development income tax dollars. So, you know, when we were negotiating with Kirstein's development on how to come together on assisting with the infrastructure, our redevelopment council suggested that this is the mechanism that we go through. You establish a revolving loan fund, but then you capitalize that with exactly as much as you plan to then turn around and then loan out to Kirstein's development, to that development partner. So it's not, in essence, what we think of. I know in the past there was a Washington revolving loan fund, and that it continues to recapitalize itself once loans are paid back. Assuming Kirstein's development holds up their end of the bargain and meets those price points that we had discussed, it's forgiven, right? And that's kind of the mechanism that we have to follow. So it's a bit confusing, but the legislature decided to make it as such, I guess, up in Indianapolis, so.
So the same thing's been done before, like on other projects?
Yeah, I don't know if necessarily here, but yeah, this is the way our redevelopment council at Barnes and Thornburg structures all of these.
This,
public-private
yeah,
partnerships.
3 one-year payments.
Yeah.
Out of the edit fund.
Yeah.
For infrastructure.
Yeah, and the amount we arrived at is based on engineers' estimates on
Yes.
the engineering and site
For the
work,
infrastructure.
utility work, road work that would be needed to
It is
deliver.
capped
development.
too, isn't it?
Yes.
It's capped,
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
510, no more than $510,000. And
And that price was, I'll make a note too, that price was established by an engineer
Yeah.
that Bryant and Mayor consulted directly. It was
Yeah.
not my engineer.
Right.
So,
Right.
yeah.
want to make that note.
So,
Yes.
yeah, it's capped. Ruger will have to deliver, you know, proof of those expenses, you know,
Yes.
to the city. On each of those installments, as the mayor mentioned, the city will conduct an inspection, make sure that, because the city's actually going to be accepting those, that infrastructure, right, it's gonna be a city asset at the end of it. They'll make sure that it's adequate, right, that his team put it in right, it's up to city specs. If that all passes, then that first installment's made, same with the second, same with the third. And, you know, in our negotiations, we, just as we did with Reinbrecht, took a look at the various revenue streams that could come in from a development like this. So not just property taxes from the additional assessed value, not just income from the additional homes that this would allow for, you know, new population potentially to move into the community, but also utility revenue. You know, Washington's in a very advantageous position, depends on who you're at, you might argue differently, but with owning your utilities, with the exception of natural gas. So this project alone, with that $510,000, once built out, will repay itself in less than 3 years on that $510,000 just from the utility revenue, gross utility revenue alone, right? In addition to the property taxes, the income taxes, ancillary spending in the community, construction impacts, so on and so forth. So it's the point is, it's a good investment for the city, right? It renders a return, you know, within at least 3 years, you're getting your money back, and then anything on top of that is going into the tax base, so. Any questions on that?
So, it doesn't, I mean, like, he can go ahead and build the roads and do the second phase, but he doesn't get paid to the next year, right?
Yeah,
Correct.
It's one payment per year.
Yeah, yeah. But from a cash flow perspective for the city with Edit, we thought that was prudent. So, yeah, and in working with Ruger and his team on what they would expect from a development like this to get that return in where it still keeps their attention, right? And passing up other markets, other opportunities, it was, you know, mutually agreeable, right? Ruger, would you have anything to add to that?
I may not have worded it right, but I'm just making sure that this was in
Yeah.
coordination with that one. Which it said one a year, where this
Yeah.
just said when the project was, so,
I thought it had one per year on there somewhere.
it might have somewhere, but,
I thought.
yeah, any one calendar year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah.
If
Can I ask
not,
a question?
yes, sir, yes.
I mean, I don't
Yeah.
know about development and that kind of thing. I just had a curiosity question more than less. But I was curious of, had they been at a survey done that we would know that there's enough people that will be able to purchase these higher price homes and, you know, condos? Or are they gonna be finished and only half filled?
It's a very good question. So there has,
Okay.
back in 2019, we partnered with 10 other counties in an 11-county region, and they did an individual in-depth housing study of each of those 11 counties, Davies being one of them, with a spotlight on Washington as the largest municipality and county seat. So this is directly in line with those findings from that housing study in terms of that demand.
And who did that study?
I believe it's RDG Consulting.
RDG Consulting.
Yeah, so they were hired by the Regional Opportunities Initiative, which is a Lilly Endowment funded organization of which Davies County, City of Washington are involved in. So yeah, it was evidence-based. We were
Well,
right there with
I
you.
figured you probably did, because
Yeah.
you wouldn't be wanting to come in
Yeah.
and develop
Yeah.
with you holding the
Yeah.
sack, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But-
Well, and that was the importance in identifying the forgivable loan provisions, because we know from, you know, talking with developers, talking with builders, your margins are obviously much smaller on delivering a $225,000 home versus a $400,000 home, right? Your inputs are relatively the same, your margins are much higher on a luxury home, right? So, you know, we very much want anyone and everyone to build those in the city of Washington and in Davies County, but we know that the performance generally work in that regard. For a development like this, where we're trying to, and the definition of a starter home has changed every which way and the other in the past couple of years, along with everything else. But when you're trying to develop starter homes like this, you have to have economies of scale. Generally, you'll see developments like this in a minimum of 100 lots, and a developer expecting to sell all 100 lots in a year and a half, right? Well, obviously, with a rural community like Washington, that's not gonna happen. We just don't have the population or the demand, so we have to come together with developers like this to make these kind of projects happen.
On a smaller scale.
So, on a smaller scale, exactly, yep. Very good question.
Any other questions? Okay. Hearing none, can I have a motion to approve? Or a motion to adopt? Councilman Brown makes a motion to adopt. Second?
Second.
Second. Councilman Dahl makes a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that resolution's adopted. Okay, all right, now we'll move to ordinances. The first ordinance we have is a final reading of ordinance number 16-2022.
I'd move we read that by title only with an explanation of the revisions, because it looks like it's got the right description in it.
Okay, Councilman Dahl makes a motion to read this ordinance by title only with the corrections that have been made. Second by Councilman Showalter, all in favor? Opposed? Tim?
Ordinance 16-2022 An ordinance of the City of Washington, Indiana, annexing territory to the City of Washington, placing the same within the corporate boundaries thereof, and making the same a part of the City of Washington, the Buffalo Trace Super Voluntary Annexation. Major change here has to do with the amount of acreage. There was two, as I recall, there were two segments to the Buffalo Trace development, and whenever we looked at this last meeting, it did not have both segments in there. And I believe that the legal description was revised by Dennis Helms back on Exhibit A. And then the total acreage is now 9.49 acres, where it was less than half of that, I think. last week.
Yeah, so right around the 5 somewhere.
So that's the major changes on there.
Okay, any other questions concerning this ordinance?
I move we approve it.
Okay, all right, motion approved by Councilman Dahl.
Second.
Second, okay, roll call vote, please.
Councilman Lunsford,
Aye.
Councilman Brown,
Aye.
Councilman Gress,
All right.
Councilman Campton, Councilman Emmons,
Aye.
Councilman Dahl,
All right.
Councilman Showalter.
Aye.
All right, this ordinance is approved. All right, next we have a final reading of ordinance 20-2022. Can I have a motion to read this ordinance, please?
Make a motion to read it by title only.
Okay, Councilman Shore makes a motion to read this ordinance by title only. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Councilman Dahl. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 10.
Ordinance number 20-2022 is amended. An ordinance revising ordinance 29-2021 in section 75.04J of the Washington Code of Ordinances. And again, this was amended since the initial reading. The amendment has to do with basically deleting the language from section 75.04J of the Code of Ordinances, which was the paragraph which limited the hours of operation for golf carts and off-road vehicles.
Okay, any questions? Other questions concerning this ordinance?
I only have one comment, and I've had a few calls, and they think that we're kind of remiss by not putting
Time
limits on operation instead of just giving them carte blanche.
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
comment.
Yes, thank you. Any other comments?
I
Concern?
had 2 phone calls and they were the opposite. One to make sure that we viewed it the other way, so.
I mean, my personal opinion is we have time limits, but I had so many calls that were for this that, you know, I changed mine to yes the last time, and that's the way it would be. I had 0 people contact me that were against it. Now, when they start hearing the loud mufflers at 3 in the morning from the side-by-sides, they may change their mind.
Yes, I have, yes, concerns a bit. Okay, anything else? Motion to approve?
I'll make it.
Councilman Shore makes a motion to approve. Second?
Second.
Councilman Lunsford seconds. Roll call vote, please.
Councilman Lunsford,
Aye.
Councilman Brown,
Aye.
Councilman Gress,
No.
Councilman Emmons,
Aye.
Councilman Dahl,
Aye.
Councilman Showalter.
Aye.
Okay, all right, the ayes have it, this ordinance is approved. Next one, we have final reading of ordinance 21-2022. Can I have a motion to read this ordinance, please?
So moved.
Councilman Dahl makes a motion by title only.
Second.
Second by Councilman Showalter. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 10.
Ordinance number 21-2022, an ordinance of the City of Washington, Indiana, designating an area within the city as an economic development target area.
Okay, any other questions on this ordinance, regarding this ordinance?
Yeah.
This is just a procedural step. You have to, if you're approving tax abatement for multifamily or commercial or retail, you have to declare the area as an economic development target area. 4 o'clock today, the Economic Development Commission, in fact, did that. So this is just confirming that.
Okay, yes. Any
Make
other
a motion,
questions?
we accept it.
Okay, Councilman Gress makes a motion to accept the resolution.
Second.
Second by, ordinance, ordinance, and second by Councilman Emmons. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Roll call vote, please.
Councilman Lunsford,
Aye.
Councilman Brown,
Aye.
Councilman Gress,
Aye.
Councilman Emmons,
Aye.
Councilman Dahl,
Aye.
Councilman Showalter.
Aye.
All right, this ordinance is approved. All right, next we have final reading of ordinance 22-2022. I have a motion to read this ordinance, please.
Make a motion to read it by title only.
Councilman Shore makes a motion to read this ordinance by title only. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Brown, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Tim.
Ordinance number 22-2022, an ordinance establishing a local forfeiture and seized assets fund, all pursuant to IC 36-1-3 and IC 34-4 et sec.
Okay, any questions regarding this ordinance? This is to do with the police department.
I move we pass it.
Okay, Councilman, Councilman Dahl makes a motion to approve this ordinance. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Showalter, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Beth, please.
Councilman Lunsford,
Aye.
Councilman Brown,
Aye.
Councilman Gress,
Aye.
Councilman Emmons,
Aye.
Councilman Dahl,
Aye.
Councilman Showalter.
Aye.
Okay, this ordinance is approved. Next, we have the final ordinance for tonight. We have a final reading of ordinance 23-2022. Can I have a motion to read this ordinance, please?
So moved.
Councilman Shore makes a motion to read. By
By title only.
By
Yeah.
title only?
Thank you.
Second? Councilman Grass makes a motion, second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Tim?
Ordinance number 23-2022, an ordinance for addressing vacation and sick days for new hires in the fire and police department who transfer in from other departments.
Okay, any questions regarding this ordinance? Beth said she,
I have one comment.
Yes.
We have the fireman that started the 6th.
Yes.
Okay, so we kind of need this to be.
she'd like to have this go in effect on August the 6th, which was this past Saturday. Just for that reason.
Should vote on the amendment then.
I move we amend it to August 6th.
Okay, Councilman Dahl makes a motion
I'll
to
second that.
make the amendment to August 6th. Councilman Emmons seconds. All in favor? Opposed?
I move we approve the ordinance as amended.
Okay, Councilman Dahl makes a motion to approve as written. Second by Councilman Brown. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Roll call vote, please.
Councilman Lunsford,
Aye.
Councilman Brown,
Aye.
Councilman Gress,
Aye.
Councilman Campbell, Emmons,
Aye.
Councilman Dahl,
Aye.
Councilman Showalter.
Aye.
Okay, this ordinance is approved. All right, that's all on that. Other business. Do we have any other business tonight? We do have one on the agenda that, on the community coordinator agreement that I think Brian would like to just briefly talk about.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mayor. So yeah, I apologize. I think there was some confusion in getting this on the agenda. It was supposed to be on the agenda tonight. Talked with the mayor and he mentioned that we could discuss it here. But we do have a proposed agreement between the city and the Economic Development Corporation. Tim has a copy of that. I believe it's maybe working on some revisions. Is that correct, Tim? Alan's seen a copy, the mayor's seen a copy of the draft that we submitted.
I made a couple copies, put up there on the
Okay.
corner there that.
Yeah.
Right up
Perfect.
there.
And I'd be happy to follow up with you all with a copy of the agreement. But if you all recall, back in September of this past year, I briefed you all on the Hoosier Enduring Legacy Program. It's a program through the Indiana Office of Community and Rural Affairs. It's a partnership, well, basically the program is the successor program to Stellar Communities, if you all are familiar with that. basically in 2020, Okra suspended Stellar, and later in 2020, or I believe actually in 2021, they announced that they were coming up with this new program, the Hoosier Enduring Legacy Program. It's basically Stellar with a twist on how communities can recover, become more resilient, and identify legacy projects as a result of their recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic. So the City of Washington and Daviess County is a partnership. We're one of 9 communities across the state. We're designated as HELP communities, Hoosier Enduring Legacy Program. And basically what this is, like I said, identifying those legacy projects under 4 pillars. So one is digital connectivity, the other is economic vitality, quality of life, and public health. So those 4 pillars will work together with the county, with the core team that we've established. The mayor sits on that core team, county commissioner, City of Washington residents, and then representatives from different parts of the county, right? So that we got geographical representation. We'll come together and we'll identify, put together a strategic development plan that'll identify those legacy projects. Then at the end of that planning process, Okra will match Daviess County 1-to-1 up to $1 million towards implementation of one or a series of those legacy projects using the county's ARPA dollars, possibly with the city, in conjunction with the city's ARPA dollars or other funding that they may have. But this, the county's required to use 30% of their ARPA funds towards these legacy projects. So as part of that program, it's a requirement that the community hires a community coordinator to drive this process. It's pretty time intensive, requires a lot of coordination with the state, with the core team, with committees that are established under those 4 pillars. So in the first year, Okra has said they'll match the community up to $20,000 towards that full-time position. And in conversations with the mayor, with Daviess County, so the county commissioners, county council, the concept was that that position would actually be housed in our office, since we're working on obviously all of that stuff anyway. It makes sense in terms of a clear chain of command, right? And the proposal in front of you, or that we're discussing, is basically splitting the cost of that position with the county. So it's a 2-year commitment, $25,000 per year, between both the city and the county. So $25,000 in year 1 from the city, $25,000 from the county. That'll obviously be prorated this first year because that individual won't be working a full year. But our cohort of the HELP program actually starts this month. So it's pretty timely to move forward with that. And in that first year, so the county will actually be the recipient of that $20,000 reimbursement from Okra. In this agreement that I will get to you all, it's basically saying that the county would reimburse you for half of that. So all in, the first year, the city would be in $15,000, same for the county, if that makes sense. And the reason being, it's a joint partnership between the city and the county, and in our discussions before we applied for HELP, I'd imagine that a lot of the activity, the projects we identify, or certainly a fair amount of them, would be in the city of Washington or directly impact the city of Washington, just with it being a third of the county's population, the county seat, and one of the economic hubs in the county, right? So that's the proposal we have in front of you. I'd be happy to answer any questions, and like I said, I do apologize for the inconvenience and not getting that on the agenda. So any questions?
And I thought it'd be a good idea to bring it to you, since we didn't get on the agenda, and ask your blessings to proceed. And then it would come to you guys the next meeting.
Yeah.
It's an agreement. But Tim's got a copy of it. If you guys wish, he can overlook it and do it, whatever you request. If it's your, desire to.
Somebody else send that out to the council.
What's that?
Somebody else send that out to the council tomorrow.
Yeah, I'd be happy to send the draft that we pulled together.
Yeah, I got
And
copies.
then
I got a couple
Tim's-
copies up there. Some of you guys get it.
Yeah, in the
electronically.
process of making suggestions.
I
We'll
have-
make sure you all get a copy of that, but
All right.
$25,000 per year, commitment of 2 years, 2 installments, $12,500 in
12,500.
January, 12,500 in July. So that's in sync with our contract with you all anyway. It's essentially an addendum to our contract with you all, which is
And the county has the same,
Yeah.
same agreement.
Yeah, the county commissioners will be hearing their agreement. I'm on the agenda for the commissioners meeting tomorrow morning to discuss essentially the same agreement, but with Davies County in place of the city of Washington. So,
I have no problem with that. Something we need to pick up in the budget, I assume.
That would be paid, I presume, out of edit. You know,
Recognizing development.
yeah. It's
Is
just,
that where our current contract comes out of, Mayor, the 35? Okay.
yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes,
makes sense.
yeah.
And it wouldn't hurt it any.
No, no, it's, I mean, you know, and we talked about this, yeah. Yeah, it's just, the city needs to have some kind of stake in the game for this coordinator position, because they will be doing a lot of work for both city and county. Me and Alan's met several times with them, talking about this as we was moving forward, and
It was brought to my attention to a couple reshuffling who represents who within the council districts. So I will try to get that out to you well in advance, because it's going to be lengthy, the legal description in particular, but I'll try to get those out to you well in advance of when we're going to read.
okay. Yeah, okay. Councilman, Councilman Lunsford.
Firehouse, had a conversation with them today. We're going out here, the county's waiting on the city, city's waiting on the county. I haven't, go and talk about much, I just wanna go out there.
That was something we did talk about in the budget hearings. You know, but never really, yeah, came to a conclusion on it. It's something that needs to be, and then again, like you say, I don't know, you know, county has been stewing on it too. So, you know, something we need to, before we do the final budget and thing, we need to consider either or not. Okay? I mean, we'll have to bring it and address it, okay? Anything else?
Nope.
All right, Beth, you got anything?
I don't.
Anybody from the audience got anything else? Last call? All right, This meeting's adjourned, thank you. Board of Public Works and Safety in 5 minutes. I got something for you before you take off. Public Works and Safety meeting, August 8th, 2022 to order, please. First thing we have, approval of the minutes of the July 25th, 2022 regular meeting.
I move we approve those as written.
Councilman Dahl makes a motion to approve the minutes as written.
I'll second.
Councilwoman Ash seconds. All in favor, say aye.
All right.
Opposed? Discussion approval of claims submitted to you tonight for your approval.
I'll move we approve the
Okay,
claims.
Councilwoman Ash
Second.
makes a motion to approve the claims. Councilman Dahl seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we have discussion approval of sidewalk curb replacement application that was in. Jonathan couldn't be with us, asked if it'd be all right for him not to be here tonight. This application's 14 Dewey Avenue for Judy Robinson. Owner share 2254, city share 2861, total project $5,116.09.
I'll move
Presented.
we approve it.
Okay.
I'll second.
Councilwoman Ash makes a motion to approve this sidewalk application. Councilman Dahl seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And last, we have discussion approval of salary position change from the water park submitted by Kip Kelly. This person did this for lifeguard, went to head lifeguard right at the end of the time in between council meetings. We didn't have a chance to approve it. So she went from 1140 to 1390 on this last pay scale from July 23rd to August the 5th. So,
I move we approve it.
okay, Councilman Dahl makes a
I'll
motion to
second
approve.
that.
Opposed? And that's all that's on the agenda for the Board of Works tonight. Anybody in the audience got anything for the Board of Works tonight?
No, that doesn't seem fair at all.
Yeah, I did. Put some of his other on
All
there.
right, Neil, you got anything else?
They're not carrying your weight,
David?
are they?
Beth, you got anything? Jim?
I'm not gonna filibuster.
Hearing none, nothing, this meeting's adjourned.